Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, June 4th, 2020. Today I'm going to discuss the comments made by Saints quarterback Drew Brees that got a lot of attention, and he apologized. We'll go over all that. Talk about the NBA's plan that they unveiled today. Preview tonight's season finale of Jimmy Kimmel's first season of hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Preview tonight's episode of Celebrity Watch Party, and I'll do my 2015 top 10 NBA players and games. Okay, we'll start with the Brees comments. I alluded to it at the end of my show yesterday with James Celestin. It's something I actually forgot to put in the agenda to talk about with him. He happened to bring it to my attention, and I told him, yeah, you're right, I forgot to put that down. And I thought, nailed it on the money yesterday on his take, and I agree with James about how we get where Drew Brees was coming from, but the times we're in right now as a country is really what got people fired up. People would have been fired up over the comments regardless, but coming literally 10 days after the tragic murdering of George Floyd is probably was not the best idea for Drew Brees. He came out with a statement on Instagram today apologizing, and this was very well written. He said, "I would like to apologize to my friends, teammates, the city of New Orleans, the black community, the NFL community, and anyone I hurt with my comments yesterday. In speaking with some of you, it breaks my heart to know the pain I have caused. In an attempt to talk about respect, unity, and solidarity centered around the American flag and the national anthem, I made comments that were insensitive and completely missed the mark on the issues we are facing right now as a country. They lacked awareness and any type of compassion or empathy. Instead, those words have become divisive and hurtful and have misled people into believing that somehow I am an enemy. This could not be further from the truth and is not an accurate reflection of my heart or my character. This is where I stand. I stand with the black community in the fight against systemic racial injustice and police brutality and support the creation of real policy change that will make a difference. I condemn the years of oppression that have taken place throughout our black communities and still exist today. I acknowledge that we as Americans, including myself, have not done enough to fight for that equality or to truly understand the struggles and plight of the black community. I recognize that I am a part of the solution and can be a leader for the black community in this movement. I will never know what it's like to be a black man or raise black children in America, but I'll work every day to put myself in those shoes and fight for what is right. I have always been an ally, never an enemy. I'm sick about the way my comments were perceived yesterday, but I take full responsibility and accountability. I recognize that I should do less talking and more listening. And when the black community is talking about their pain, we all need to listen. For that, I am very sorry, and I ask your forgiveness." So that was very well said by Drew Brees. That's pretty much all that I was expecting from Drew Brees to say in this statement, because Drew Brees is a great man. We know him as a great quarterback for the New Orleans Saints for all these years. He has a very nice wife. He has 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. He is somebody that I've always respected as a human being and as an NFL quarterback. He is somebody that always is given back to the community. He was heavily involved in rebuilding New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina hit, and we all know that big game the Saints had post-Katrina, and the block punt brought back for a touchdown, and how the team and the city really rallied around that Saints team that year. But yeah, Drew Brees is a great guy. It's just a misstep. He acknowledged that himself, and you knew he would. He's the person that always acknowledges mistakes if he was the person to do it. Like, it couldn't have been worded better by one of the great players we have in all of sports. And I applaud Drew Brees for that post. Absolutely do. He's somebody that is very close with Ellen DeGeneres. He's always been on her show in the past because Ellen's obviously from New Orleans and she supports the Saints, although I think she might be a Packers fan too. So it's a little weird. I guess it's because that's her hometown team, and then I guess she somehow jumped on the Packers too. And she's been very close to Drew Brees, so that's how I kind of got to know Drew Brees, the human being, just from being on Ellen so much, with his wife and children as well. So, like I said, very well done apology from Drew Brees. And now I want to get into the NBA. They formally announced how their season will come back. The tentative date for the season's return, July 31st, just like Adrian Wojnarowski said in the tweet the other day. 22 teams, Orlando, Florida. So training camps, July 9th through 11th. The conclusion of the 1920 season, July 31st through October 12th. October 12th being the possible Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The draft lottery is August 25th. The NBA draft, October 15th, so a couple days after Game 7, like how it used to be. Like, the Game 7 would be on a possible Tuesday, and then the draft would be 2 days later. That's happened a couple times over the past 15 years or so. Free agency, October 18th. That's a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to possibly have college football and free agency going head-to-head. So, like, when Anthony Davis, or if Anthony Davis inevitably resigns with the Lakers, well, I think that's the lock of the offseason so far. Unless if there's some weird stuff that happens in the playoffs and whatnot. I just don't see that being a Dwight Howard situation. But let's say Anthony Davis resigns with the Lakers. You'll be watching a big college football game on ESPN. Breaking news, Anthony Davis resigns with the Lakers on a 5-year, $215 max contract or something like that. So get ready for that come October. The 2020-2021 training camp, November 10th. So a very quick free agency. So this is kind of reminiscent of the lockout season from 2011 to 12. You had a very short free agency period, and then you went literally right to the season on Christmas Day. And then the season will start on December 1st. So that's a surprise to me. I would have thought they would have picked Christmas, but that's okay. It's earlier than Christmas. So it's an early Christmas present on December 1st. And then we will obviously find out the dates of the NBA Finals for 2021 or the 2020-2021 season sooner rather than later. I don't know if the 2021 season is going to be shorter or not. And then Woj tweeted, as the Knicks season ends now, President Leon Rose will soon begin his search for a new coach, with Tom Thibodeau a front runner out of the gate. So it looks like Tom Thibodeau is the front runner for this job. This is something that I talked about with James Celestin, not last night, but the other time I had him on the show, the candidates for the New York Knicks head coaching position. I know that's off topic a little bit, but the Knicks season is essentially over because they're not included in the 22 game thing or team thing. So again, the team's headed to Orlando. You have the 8 playoff teams from the West, plus the Portland Trailblazers, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Sacramento Kings, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Phoenix Suns. The Eastern Conference, you have the 8 playoff teams plus the Washington Wizards. So the Bulls season is over. So that's another team that could very well be starting to focus on hiring a new head coach as well, assuming they get rid of Boylan, Jim Boylan. I couldn't think of his first name. And then the lottery rules. tweeted by ESPN's Zach Lowe. The 14 NBA lottery teams would be the 8 teams that do not participate in the restart and the 6 teams that participate in the restart but do not qualify for the playoffs. These teams would be seeded in the lottery and assign odds based on their records through games of March 11th. The 16 playoff teams would draft in inverse order of their combined records across regular season games and seeding games. So there you go in terms of the lottery and the draft in terms of the NBA. Now the pressure looms for Major League Baseball. They get their act together and come up with some plan. Andy Martino remains confident. I said that on James's show with James on my show yesterday, and when I had Julian on yesterday, I said that to them that Andy Martino remains confident, and we talked about how Martino has been right about some significant things within the last 2 years or so, and this is his biggest one yet, because those 2 big things he was right about were Yankee related, which were big deals at the time, obviously, the signing of Garrett Cole and how they were on it, or the team not going after Bryce Harper and Manny Machado 2 winters ago. So Martino's really, improved as a reporter, and this is his biggest one yet, and if he misses here, then his perception's going to go down from a national media standpoint. And if he's right, then his perception will go in the positive direction. So Major League Baseball under a lot of pressure. Now hockey still needs to come out with their dates for their return. I think that's inevitable. And today it came out that after the qualifying rounds, they'll be reseeding. So that's very interesting because then it's a little bit of an unknown who you'll play in the next round. So the last time we had reseeding in the postseason was that lockout season of the 2012-13 shortened year. That was the last time we had a reseeding situation. So I think the NHL is going to test that out. I wonder if the NBA will go bracket or reseeding as well. I don't mind the reseeding thing because sometimes if you have the bracket, like you'll see a fluke team in the conference finals, like you saw with the Ottawa Senators in hockey a couple years ago. You could argue Portland last year in the NBA was fluky for the conference finals, but they get a lot of credit because of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum and Terry Stotts as the head coach. And that Ottawa team, I still have doubts that if it was a normal bracket, then they probably don't even get by the first round. That team was not very good. They just had guys stepping up for them. Erik Karlsson was by far their best player. He was the best player in their series against Boston and the best player in that series against the Rangers, and that really helped them go to the conference finals and taking Pittsburgh to 7 games too, which is nuts. And then Ottawa hasn't been good since. So I'm probably right about the Senators. And that's something that I've talked about with Derek a lot, and I've talked about Jeff Maglicetti a lot, and I'm going to have those 2 guys on the show. Derek tonight to do on one of the regions, the unlucky region of the bracket of pain, and I'm going to have Jeff Maglicetti on tomorrow to do the what if region of the bracket of pain. Tonight is the season finale of Jimmy Kimmel's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's a huge deal because all the commercials leading up to the show is about Anderson Cooper, and he is possibly going for the million. So that's very interesting. Obviously, we know him from CNN. He helps Andy Cohen. He's playing for the Spikes K9 Fund. Is he the only one left, or is there somebody else going to be on as well? And Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen. So I guess Andy Cohen's going to be up after Anderson Cooper. So Andy Cohen will, I guess, play after Anderson Cooper's done, because I know Andy Cohen was supposed to be on the show, and I guess he's going to go after Anderson Cooper. And there's rumors that one of them gets to the $1 million question, but it's not really known who, or if one of them ends up winning the million. And last week, Lauren Lapkus made the $1 million question, but she wound up walking away with $500,000 as she chose to do that. And then she would have been wrong with the $1 million question anyway. So good thing she wound up walking away with the $500,000 on the show last week. Now I'm going to talk about tonight's episode of Celebrity Watch Party. Fun show, a lot of the same celebrities you see on the show, and they're going to be joined by Full House stars Jodie Sweetin and Andrea Barber. They were on last week as well. Sharon Osbourne, Tyra Banks, Ozzy and Kelly with Sharon, Lindsay Lohan. Normally the Bucks are on there. Obviously Joe Buck and his wife Michelle Beisner Buck from ESPN. So should be a fun show tonight. In terms of what's going to be quote unquote watched, that's going to be interesting. It's probably going to be a lot of the new stuff regarding George Floyd and the unfortunate murder and all the protests. Like, I could see a world where Sharon Osbourne, just because I know her personality, and then I saw within one of the first two episodes that she was outraged over the coronavirus coverage. So, like, I won't be dumbfounded if it's like the George Floyd coverage and then, like, Sharon Osbourne reacting to it and stuff like that. So, that's my prediction for the show tonight. You may also see the game shows like Match Game and Press Your Luck and Family Feud, which is the Sunday night trifecta triple header on ABC, which is fun. You may very well see the Watt Brothers new show, the Tag Show. So it should be interesting. But yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be news with George Floyd in that coverage. And like I said, maybe you'll see clips of the game shows. Maybe you'll see something that I'm not even thinking of. So should be an interesting show tonight. Now I'm going to do my 2015 top 10 NBA players. 3 honorable mentions for you. Kevin Durant, who did not really play much in the calendar year 2015 because of his injury. I know the Thunder missed the playoffs. Russell Westbrook, I'm sorry, they missed the playoffs in 2015, or the calendar year 2015. And yeah, everyone's going to say if Kevin Durant wasn't hurt, they would have made it. That's true, but they had a chance. Like, they really had a chance to get the 8 seed and perhaps give the Warriors a series as the 8 seed. And then Draymond Green, who was awesome that year and was the first of those couple championships for the Warriors. And number 10 on my top 10 is Klay Thompson, Green's teammate. This is the year Klay really came into his own and emerged as the best two-way shooting guard in the NBA. 9th place, Marc Gasol, Memphis Grizzlies, helped take the Grizzlies to the second round. Took the Warriors to Game 6 that had a 2-1 series lead on them. I give Marc Gasol a lot of credit. He was the best player on that team. So he gets my love from me. 8th place, Kawhi Leonard, San Antonio Spurs. This was the year he started to emerge as the guy that we saw in the NBA Finals against Miami those 2 years. The 13-14 season, he wasn't healthy. And in 2015 was really when he started to come into his own as a regular season player and as an all-star player. And then obviously the 15-16 season, he came in second place in the MVP voting, if I'm not mistaken. 7th place, LaMarcus Aldridge, Portland Trail Blazers. He was the best player on the Blazers at the time. They lost in the postseason in 5 to Memphis, and then he wound up leaving to go to the Spurs. But he really helped the Spurs in the 15-16 season have the second best record in the league. That gets overlooked how dominant the Spurs were that year because of Golden State's dominance and Golden State blowing the 3-1 lead to Cleveland and Oklahoma City being up 3-1 on Golden State. Like, the Spurs season got so overlooked that year because they didn't make the conference finals. Oklahoma City upset them. 6, Chris Paul, Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers made the second round of the postseason in 2015. Blew a 3-1 series lead to the Rockets. We'll talk about that series a little bit when I get to my top games. But Chris Paul was awesome. 5th place, Anthony Davis, New Orleans Pelicans. Davis really came into his own that season. Everyone's going to say, oh, well, they took advantage of Oklahoma City and Durant being injured. They did, but I think there were some other beneficiaries to that, too, like the Dallas Mavericks and some other teams that really weren't all that special that year. But New Orleans was up and coming that year, and Davis's emergence really was a big reason why. And they nearly beat the Warriors in a playoff game, which I'll get to in my top 10 games. Or it could very well be an honorable mention. I really don't remember what I did with that game. But yeah, Davis was a big part of New Orleans surprising some folks that season. 4th place, Blake Griffin, Los Angeles Clippers. Griffin really, this was his best season, the 14-15 season. He was great in 13-14 as well. But Griffin was playing out of his mind, and we alluded to the Clippers winning that Game 7 Classic over the Spurs, and then wound up blowing the 3-1 series lead against the Rockets. But Blake really was great that year, and that was like the last awesome year Blake has had. 3, James Harden, Houston Rockets. Helped lead the Rockets to the conference finals. Was a big part of their comeback from 3-1 down. Even though in Game 6, he was actually benched. Kevin McHale benched him because he wasn't trying. It was really the role players that brought him back, and then Harden was like celebrating on the bench. But he does get credit for me in that series for the comeback because Game 5 and Game 7 also happened, but everybody just points to Game 6, and I think it's forgotten with those 2 games as well. But everyone just points to Game 6 to where the Clippers, quote-unquote, blew it. 2, LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers. You could argue Harden over LeBron, but I had to put LeBron number 2 because they made the finals that year. Yeah, they lost, and that was LeBron's first year back in Cleveland. But they were up 2-1 in that series, and without Kyrie and Love, and LeBron deserves a lot of credit for that, for them being up 2-1 against that dominant Warriors team. And obviously, number 1, no doubt about it, Stephen Curry. If I'm not mistaken, he was the unanimous MVP in one of these 2 seasons. But he was easily the most dominant shooter and offensive force in the NBA in the calendar year of 2015, in which they won the championship, and then the start of that next season, they got up to that undefeated start and route to their 73-9 season. And now I'm going to do my 2015 top 10 games. So this should be a very interesting list. 6 honorable mentions. 2015 was loaded with good NBA games. Rockets Clippers Game 6. It took place May 14th in the second round. 119-107 Rockets win. That's only an honorable mention because of the comeback led by Josh Smith and Pablo Prigioni and the rest of the Rockets role players. 5th place, Cavaliers Warriors. June 4th, NBA Finals Game 1, 108-100 Golden State overtime win. That was a great game, and that was an awesome game that really had to be an honorable mention. That's unfortunate that an NBA Finals overtime game is an honorable mention, but oh well. Rockets Warriors Game 2. On May 21st of the conference finals, 99-98 Golden State wins, so the Rockets gave them a run for their money in that game and could have tied up that series at 1 apiece, but didn't. Golden State goes up 2-0. Wizards Hawks, May 13th, Game 5, 82-81. Hawks win a close game. I believe it was a go-ahead bucket plus the foul for Al Horford for the win in that game as the Hawks went up 3-2. Bulls Bucks, April 25th, Game 4, 92-90. Milwaukee win. That series was all but over at that point. But Giannis and Chris Middleton and company stole a game from the Bulls to at least force a Game 5. And that's funny because that series actually went 6, so the Bucks actually picked them off at United Center to make that series interesting again. So I guess it really wasn't quote-unquote over yet. And then the Warriors-Clippers, November 19th, regular season game, 124-117 Golden State win. If I'm not mistaken, this was a nationally televised game. The Clippers had a big lead, and then Curry and Thompson led the Warriors back to win that game. They remain undefeated. And without further ado, my top 10 NBA games of 2015. 10th place, Cavs Warriors, Christmas Day in the 15-16 season, but it was December 25th, so it's 2015. 89-83 Golden State win. Rematch of the finals. Golden State going for the 73-9 jugular season. Cavs gave them a great game, but that game was a lot closer than that final score indicated. 9th place, Warriors Pelicans, April 23rd, Game 4, 123-119, Golden State overtime win. Curry hits that iconic game-tying 3 to force overtime, and then Curry and the Warriors prevail in overtime. 8th place, Hawks Cavs, May 24th, Game 3, 114-111, Cavaliers overtime win. This was like the Hawks' chance to get back in that series, but LeBron and company prevailed as they wound up pulling off a sweep. 7th place, Hawks Wizards, May 15th, Game 6, 94-91 Atlanta win. This was the game where Paul Pierce, it looked like he hit a game-tying 3, but he didn't get it off in time. So, no overtime. Hawks win the series to move on to the conference finals. 6th place, Bulls Warriors, January 27th, 2015. Game on TNT where the Bulls came away with the 113-111 overtime win led by Derrick Rose. Cavaliers Warriors in 5th place, Game 2 of the NBA Finals, 95-93 Cavaliers win. LeBron James leads the Cavs to an impressive win at Golden State to even up the NBA Finals at 1 apiece. 4th place, Hawks Wizards, May 9th, Game 3, 103-101 Washington wins. Buzzer beater by Paul Pierce as the Wizards went up 2-1 in that series. 3rd place, Cavaliers Bulls, May 10th, Game 4, 86-84 LeBron buzzer beater for the win as the Cavs even up that conference semifinals at 2 apiece. 2nd place, Bulls Cavaliers, May 8th, Game 3, 99-96 Bulls win on a buzzer beating 3 by Derrick Rose as the Bulls went up 2-1 in that series. And it's weird that I had the Game 3 over to Game 4 in that series. I did that because at the time it was huge that the Bulls won that game, and it was a 3-pointer. And that LeBron game winner was great, but it felt like more excitement when Rose hit the shot, and that crowd was just going nuts. And I think that must have prevailed that game over Game 4, in which LeBron hit the buzzer beater on Mother's Day. But that was a close call, the 3 versus 2. And number 1, Spurs Clippers Game 7, May 2nd, 2015, which was an absolutely loaded sports day. You had the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs. You had the Kentucky Derby, and you had a big MMA or UFC fight that night. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was Conor McGregor against somebody. I don't think it was Mayweather. It might have been Mayweather-McGregor. I don't remember the exact MMA fight. I'm going to Google it right now. MMA fight, May 2nd, 2015. What was the big fight that day? Mayweather-Pacquiao. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, it was Mayweather-Pacquiao was the big fight that night. But yeah, that buzzer beater by Chris Paul, or not buzzer beater, but it was a game winner with like a second left to knock off the reigning NBA champion Spurs was all awesome and very impressive. And I think it gets forgotten a little bit because of what happened the next round, but that was a great moment for the Clippers and Doc Rivers and that fan base and obviously that team. So that's it for today's show. We'll be back tomorrow recapping any sports coronavirus related news. Recap the Millionaire finale. Let's see if Andy Cohen or Anderson Cooper come away with $1 million. The watch party will recap the episode. We'll do KBO. We'll look back on the games from both today and yesterday, and we'll look ahead to tomorrow and the weekend. We just forgot to do KBO today. And my 2015 top 10 NHL players and games for you. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.